What's up, guys? MK Tom Brady here, and in this video I'm gonna do a neutral slash footsies tutorial, whatever you want to call it, but I'm also gonna do it and kind of tailor it toward Mortal Kombat 11 a little bit. People always ask, Tom, why did you take down your neutral tutorial? Why did you take down your footsies tutorial? I took it down because it was very in general, and it didn't incorporate a lot of things in Mortal Kombat 11 based on characters, the way the anti-airs work in the game. And we hear all the time, yeah, well, if only you could anti-air in this game, there would be footsies, etc. And really, all this stuff in neutral is really incorporated in Mortal Kombat 11, including anti-airing. There are different ways to do it. Neutral is another way to do it as well. And I just, including the stagger game, etc. There's a whole bunch of things in Mortal Kombat 11 that I didn't incorporate into my video. It was more, if you're playing basic fighting game 101 neutral, and some of those things really help people, but a lot of the things that people still need help with were not answered. So in this video, I'm going to try to go as in-depth as I possibly can, even down to characters that are chosen. Okay, so first, we're just going to do the very basics of neutral first, right? We're going to start off with neutral 101, and then we're going to move on to the more advanced stuff. So some of this stuff in neutral 101 was covered in my first video, but because I want to put it all in one complete video, not just for those who have seen it, but for those who have not, we're still going to cover it anyway. Sub-Zero. Okay, so neutral 101. Playing neutral is really, as I've said before, two basic concepts, right? And even if it's your first day playing fighting games, you do this all the time. It's controlling space. And like I said, if this is your first day playing a fighting game, you understand that concept very quickly, and you do this concept constantly. You already know, even on your first day, that if someone's approaching you, you want to try to hit them, right? So you already understand that this space here, see this forward 3, this space that I'm doing this move, you already understand if you think somebody's going to be here, you're going to do moves to hit them. This is controlling this space with this move. The opponent cannot occupy this particular area without these moves making contact. So this is a fairly simple concept. I think everybody gets it. It's pretty easy to do, pretty easy to understand. The next concept, not so much. The next concept is the ability to manipulate that space, which the opponent is trying to control. So they think you're going to be here, but in actuality you're over here. This move misses. Now, this is done in many, many, many ways. Like ideally, a very basic way to do this is just concept 1. You pretty much, you walk up on somebody in general, like you're going to attack them, and maybe, they think you're going to come in and you come out. So you kind of show them the approach. They start, okay, well, I believe he's going to occupy this space. And instead you show them something else. They whiff, right? And they get punished. A way to capitalize on this is, now they're anticipating you missing. You may, in other words, they anticipate you coming in and going back out. So now they may say, okay, since he's going to change where he's going to be, I am now going to advance, right? So the opponent believes you're going to come in and change your space to be right here, right? So they think, okay, he's tricking me to think he's going to be here, and instead he's showing me that he's coming here, but then he ends up being over here. So what the opponent is going to do is now they're going to change their space. So now, when you show them what you've been showing them and go back to here, instead of sticking an attack out to meet you here, they're going to move forward and try to meet you here. This could be with an attack grounded, a jumping attack, etc. If you think they're going to be grounded, what you can do is you know, instead of kind of changing your distance, then you come all the way in and you meet them as they go to advance and you hit them in the face. If you believe they're going to jump, right, then what you could do is the minute they see you move, they think you're going to be right here, right, for example. So they think you're going to do this and come all the way back here, and they're like, okay, I got him. I'm going to meet him here. So what happens is now, instead of that, you would show them a tiny bit of advancement, but then back away even further at a sooner point. And now they go to jump and they go to think you're going to be here, and instead you're over here. Their jump whiffs. Now, some characters in Mortal Kombat 11 have really, really good anti-airs. So you don't need to worry about that. You can actually defend the controlling space also, and space control also covers the air, even standing. The art of going into crouch, your upper body is no longer in this space. It is now here in this space, and they're trying to control this space here, and the high jab whiffs. So any part of your body that you can manipulate where it's going to be and when it's going to be there is considered, you know, space control. Now, like I said, there are some characters that can kind of jab you out of this. Not everyone can do this. So for some people, you have to manipulate this kind of space. And this is really, really key in Mortal Kombat 11. So a lot of people talk about anti-airs, etc. There are some characters who can kind of traditionally fighting game anti-air you, Mortal Kombat traditional anti-airs, jabs out of the airs, etc. Some characters have to use uppercuts. It's kind of tough to be kind of doing this and then all of a sudden throw an uppercut out there. The jump kick collisions have quite large collision boxes, so ideally what you'd want to do if you're one of these characters is you want to manipulate where you're going to be. Like I said before, the opponent is kind of like believes you're going to be here, and instead you kind of show them the same thing, back away at a sooner point to a farther point. You're now not here, or not here. Instead you're all the way over here. So again, they're not really sure. I mean, is he going to be backing up sooner? Is he going to come in to attack me? Is he going to show he's going to come in to attack me and then do this? They're not really sure. I mean, you could pretty much be occupying anywhere from here all the way to here at any point in time, and they're not really sure. And by manipulating this, you're able to kind of keep the opponent kind of off guard, and they end up sometimes doing nothing, which is then going to allow you to kind of come in and do whatever you want. The concept of manipulating space, space control, confuses them. They want to control a certain space, but they're not sure what space you're going to occupy at that particular given time to control. So because they become unsure what space to control, they either start throwing moves and start guessing where you're going to be, or they kind of try to do the same thing. They end up guarding more, and then you're kind of allowed that they think you're going to attack, and instead of attacking, now you're coming in and throwing, etc. It kind of allows you to take more liberties than you'd be able to. This, again, is pretty much the basic concept of footsies. And this also even comes, in poking. Poking, for example, we see Scorpion's down one here. Now, this is something that you see quite a bit. So Scorpion's doing his down one, it's -4, right? And it's a 7-frame down one. This means that if he does multiple down ones, right, it's going to come out in 11 frames. Now, there are characters in this game that have really, really fast mids, 9-frame mids, 10-frame mids, etc. And there are characters in this game that have really slow mids, like, 13-frame mids, 15-frame mids, etc. What you can really do is you can sometimes kind of double down on a down one here. Now, this is the point of this. This is the bait. If they try to throw you, they get beat. If they try to do a high, they get beat. If they try to do a mid, they get beat unless their mid is fast. So let's say you're fighting a character that doesn't have a 9, 10, or even 11-frame mid that can trade. What happens here is you've now limited the opponent that if they're going to actually counter poke you, they're going to have to do something fast enough to kind of beat out your next down one that's going to come out in 11 frames. So you kind of bait them into counter poking back, right? And then when they do, you back up, their counter poke whiffs, and they get punished. So this, and then you back up, and then this move already has back in the command, so it's a natural kind of progression to just, you don't even have to like go to another direction while you're holding back. And they're counter poke whiffs. This is something quite common in Mortal Kombat 11 because not everybody has faster mids. So for characters in general that have slower mids, you can kind of look at whatever your character's frames are in the frame data, and if you can kind of double down on something and force them into one particular action, right? Not allowing them to jump, throw, do highs, or do mids, then you kind of limit them to their down 3, down 1, even some characters down 4s. And then you can kind of like, poke and then throw, poke, back away, etc. And this is why people can kind of do stuff like that. The next thing is there are some characters who have really, really good special cancels off of their pokes that cannot be interrupted. A good example of this is Kung Lao. He's got a orbiting hat that cannot be interrupted off down 1. And this is safe on block, and it will lead to a full combo. So another thing that these characters will do is they will, down 1 and, kind of, you try to counter poke back because you're counter poking back right away, and they're doing stuff like, outside of range. This is the same kind of thing as Scorpion's next down 1's going to come out at 11 frames. So they're doing stuff like this, or down 3, which is, 7 frames and only -5. This is coming out in 12 frames. So they're doing things like this, and from range, like you can't, like a down 3 into an orbiting hat from a range like this cannot be interrupted. Your down 1 just isn't going to reach him. So he can do stuff like this for a full combo, anytime he thinks you're going to respond or move, and then you go to respond, and then guess what? He backs away, and then he does forward 1, and then you're dead. So it doesn't matter if they kind of have a special cancel that's really, really good, that's safe, or they're just abusing the frames that they have to not allow you to poke back. And then when you finally do poke back, then you get punished. So let's go back to our original example here of Scorpion. So in the example we use, the Scorpion player is doing multiple down 1s, and then he's going to try to back up, right? Now, we see a lot of tactics like this. It doesn't matter if you use the Scorpion example that I used or the Kung Lao example that I used. In any example, the opponent is trying to bait you to stick something out, right? Now, why does this work? This works because, for some reason, you now, in open space anyway, you believe that you are in a position in which you must defend your ground. Scorpion player is like, defend your ground, defend it, defend your ground. The Kung Lao player, defend your ground, right? Stick something out, right? This is one of the biggest baits that you're going to find. They are baiting you into saying, for some reason, despite the fact that you have all this neutral ground here, they make you believe that you must defend this particular space right here. So what do? Right? The dude's harassing you. You say, okay, I'm not going to let you do this to me. I'm going to stick a counter poke out. And then when you do, that happens. But what if you were to back up, right? So let's say I'm the Sub-Zero player here, and the Scorpion player wants to kind of harass me with these down 1s. Okay, so if you think he's going to do that, rather than defending your ground, you take a step back, and his next attack whiffs. What happened here is I am creating new neutral ground. He is trying to make me believe that I must defend my place here, right? And in reality, I'm creating a new neutral ground. Same thing with Kung Lao. He does down 3 from that range orbiting hat, you can guard it. If he wants to harass you with multiple down 3s, you back away out of it. If he's trying to down 3 and then walk forward, down 3 again, it's very easy to just combo him right out of it. Because he has to walk forward. He's now not doing not doubling down on the attack, so his next down 3 is not coming out at 12 frames. It's going to come out even slower, and then your next hit's going to be able to hit him. So really, creating new neutral ground is one of the biggest keys. People oftentimes confuse the fact that, hey, I have to defend this spot. I must down 1 here. I must down 3 here. I must uppercut here, etc. And what happens is this is how they get baited. I must throw him here. Again, somebody that does down 1 and you think, okay, he's going to guard because he actually believes I'm going to do something. Now, sometimes another part of neutral is baiting you into thinking it's time to take your turn back. So in other words, they will maybe down 1 you and then anticipate you down 1ing them back and block it to get their turn back. Or flawless block it and then up 3 you and get their turn back. That's another part of it. You may try to throw them out of this, right? Let's say you believe that they're looking to kind of guard. And we're going to get into this in a second. Like Liu Kang is really good at doing this, right? So let's actually get into this because this is something that I want to cover. This is another part of where I want to go in like character basis. So just in general, the kind of whole thing of controlling space and space control varies on a couple things. Your character's walk speed, the speed of their moves, the range of their moves allows you to control greater or lesser areas of space. So this concept does get applied differently from character to character based on speed of the move, range of the move, etc. So this is something that, again, it does vary from character to character. You kind of have to look at the character you're playing and kind of apply it differently. Okay, so here we have a scenario, and we see this quite a bit. Liu Kang, he loves to stagger, and this is really, really big in the stagger, poke, like strike throw game of Mortal Kombat 11. So let's go on to Liu Kang here. So Liu Kang player has a bunch of staggers he can do. So forward 4 here is -7. So it's not the fastest, right? But the fact that people respawn late, because a lot of times he can do another hit that's also -7, right? Now, if you have a 6 frame down 1, and you make the read on when he's going to cancel, you can consistently down 1 him here, or down 1 him here, and take your turn back guaranteed. There is nothing he can do here. So ideally, one of the best weapons against Liu Kang and Liu Kang staggers would be a 6 frame down 1. So if you're using a character that has a 6 frame down 1, you can really poke holes in this mind game here. Because what Liu Kang likes to do is he has multiple layers here. Now, let's just say, for example, you have a 7 frame down 1. What Liu Kang likes to do, or whatever, 7 frame down 3, whatever you're going to do, Liu Kang likes to stagger, right? And then he might throw you, or whatever. Or he might finish the string, or, at any time, he might low fireball. So you're going to have to guess multiple layers when he's going to stop his pressure. What Liu Kang likes to do is he staggers, and sometimes, instead of even finishing the string, what he'll do is he'll get you to kind of make the read that you're going to poke back. So that you do a 7 frame down 1, he blocks it, or 7 frame down 3, he blocks it, and then immediately he takes his turn back, right? Now, sometimes because he's blocking it, you may say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw him because this guy is going to stagger and then he's going to wait for me to do my 7 frame attack. He's going to block it and then he's going to take his turn back. So you might go to throw him. And this is why Liu Kang's will do this, quick micro crouch, and then attack you right away. You want to stay out of this mind game. More times than not, you want to stay out of this. You don't have a 6 frame down 1 where if you can correctly read when Liu Kang is going to stagger, there is no mind game. You correctly make the read and you punish him. So if he does this, he doesn't get his turn back, you get the down 1 guaranteed. He does this, you make the right read, he doesn't get his turn back, you get the down 1 guaranteed, 6 frame down 1. This will then force him to do things like this, right? Kind of like continue his entire string, right? And do things like that, or do things like, kind of throw out parries, maybe to stop your down one, etc. It's very, very risky to do. This forces Liu Kang to kind of take some risk to kind of punish you for punishing his stagger. If you can't punish his stagger, the best way to deal with this, and again, this is part of the neutral game, right? He's blocking your poke, your counter poke. You then say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to punish him. What happens is he then crouches your throw because, okay, you're going to block my counter poke and take your turn back. I'm going to throw you. And he then changes his space. You think his space is going to be a standing collision, even by crouch blocking it's standing collision. And he releases block and it goes over his head. And then you're punished, right? Full combo. So the best way to deal with this, ideally, again, is if you aren't really sure what he's going to do, one, you want to stay out of this completely. So pretty much if you're a character that doesn't really have a 6-frame down one, you really want to kind of play the controlling space and space control game. You would much rather deal with Liu Kang's fireballs than you would him getting in your face. So a lot of times you see him advance, you retreat, etc. And then it kind of allows you to make the read of what's he going to do. Is he going to try to, okay, you're retreating. Is he going to fireball you? Maybe you can make the read and change where your space is going to be, jump the low fireball, and get an attack. Or maybe you're a character like Sub-Zero who can maybe punish the low fireball at certain ranges, crouch under the high fireball, go under the high fireball in the amplified version by crouch blocking the low. There are all kinds of things that you can do to kind of not have to deal with this. Ideally, this is what you want to do. You want to constantly keep changing your space, keep creating new neutral ground. You don't want the Liu Kang player to put you in a position in which you feel like you need to control and defend your space. But again, also, backing up is another good thing. It's like, say he does this, and you start backing up a little bit. The Liu Kang player may say, okay, since you're going to do that and back up again, I'm going to do this again. And now you can do your down one, down three, and you can beat him out. So by controlling your space and changing, or sometimes if you think he's going to do this twice, then you can go ahead and do a faster attack, a high jab, 1-2, whatever it is, ice ball, whatever your character is. By you changing your space, you're now changing your offense. Also keep in mind, a lot of times in his stagger game as well, if he thinks you're going to do like a slower attack, okay, because he's doing this and then crouching, right? You may now, instead of down one, say, okay, I'm going to make the read and I'm really going to blow him up with like a slower mid, like maybe like, whatever kind of mid you're going to do. And this is when Liu Kang again goes through with the string, right? Or the third hit will hold you. Again, the third hit holding you in place of a string, or any one of these hits holding you in place because you're looking to see what he does, kind of delays your reaction sometimes. Like I said, ideally the best thing to do is to kind of stay out of something like this. So again, this is why you really want to be able to constantly be creating new neutral ground. This is why it's so important. Now, obviously, if you have really, really fast mids, you're not even dealing with down ones here. If you have like a 9-frame mid, for example, you're really kind of able to check him a little better. It just gives you more time to react on the stagger. And sometimes with 9-frame mids, you can kind of react to him not staggering the string and then sticking a really, really fast mid out there, which even with the time passing, the frames passing with taking time to react, you can still kind of beat out his next down one, beat him out if he goes to back up, because ideally these mids are going to have more range. So if Liu Kang tries to stagger and back away, like you're able to kind of beat out his next attack or hit him before he can back away, simply because your mid is just that fast. And it covers that much ground. So again, it varies character to character how you're going to fight stuff like this. But ideally, this is still how you can kind of use neutral. You stay out of this. Like, it's like once you're in it, it's hard to create new neutral ground. It's very hard because of the range of these attacks. So it's really hard to create new neutral ground, although this is what you're looking to do ideally. But the way you stay out of this is by constantly creating new neutral ground, forcing the Liu Kang player to maybe misjudge where you're going to be, right? You know, maybe throw a fireball at a bad range, jump at a bad range, etc. Like if you keep trying to like threaten like you're going to come in and back away, the Liu Kang player may, you know, sometimes jump in, right? And then maybe you can back away even more, make him whiff. He may, again, you're kind of flirting with whatever. He may try to use the range of this move here, forward, to kind of close the distance. You continue to back away. This whiffs. Then you get a punish, etc. You obviously, the goal here is more times than not, outside of the 6 frame down 1 characters, you want to stay out of his game. And this applies for every character that puts you in these types of situations. You want to constantly spend a lot of the round creating new neutral ground, rather dealing with things like this than dealing with all of his other pokes. Dealing with things like this allows you to kind of take advantage. Maybe you have a move that can go under the high, or you want to jump over the low, etc. Changing your space. And this is a really, really big thing in this game. So there's a lot of layers to this, a lot of layers to neutral. And keep in mind, even sometimes in the corner, sometimes, again, there are some characters who you just can't, you just cannot, you can't anti-air from certain ranges, right? So if you're here and you believe Liu Kang is going to jump, obviously you have to understand on reaction, it's going to be very tough to anti-air this, sometimes almost impossible. So what you can do a lot of times is, you know, maybe kind of move yourself a little bit forward, kind of give yourself a little bit more room, right? You know, to threaten with. Well, not room, but you move forward, because what happens is you want to be able to, some characters have really good forward dashes, and they can actually dash under a jumping. So you can dash under it, the jumping whiffs, you go to the other side, and you punish it. Or if you really want to, you can use the flawless block technique and flawless block. Flawless blocking is part of the neutral, because this game kind of gives you the option, like, okay, now you're at a point where, and how you say, how is flawless blocking part of neutral? It's part of the neutral because I pretty much, my opponent doesn't, even though I'm cornered, my opponent doesn't want to come in here. He says, okay, I'm afraid that he's going to control this space as I approach it. I might get hit. So I'm going to change my space. I'm going to make him control this airspace, but he thinks he's looking to control this. You make that read. The opponent goes to do something like this. He thinks, aha, now I'm in a space that he can't control. However, flawless blocking, this jump kick here, is still a way of you controlling space. Flawless block, in a lot of ways, is the same thing as a strike. You flawless block, you get your up 2, you get your launcher. You're still controlling that space with flawless block, you know. So much like how he believes with this jump kick here, he's controlling that space. You're actually countering that by controlling that space as well with a flawless block, which kind of beats that jump kick, and then you get the launcher. So there's all types of layers to that in this game, from, you know, micro crouching to flawless blocking to, you know, surrendering your ground. Again, never, this is one of the biggest keys to neutral. Never feel that you are actually forced to defend your ground. One of the biggest keys is always realize there's nothing wrong with surrendering your ground. Surrendering your ground and create new neutral ground to be controlled. Creating new neutral ground is one of the keys to footsies. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they're constantly trying to, I need to control this space. I have to control this space. I have to control this space. And they're just whiffing. Moves right into thin air. And, you know, you can't come in here. Don't come in. You can't come in. Why, for the life of me, people believe this is, you know, I guess it's a mind game. Why you would believe that you absolutely must stop him from approaching this space here and whiff. One of the biggest ways to stop them from approaching this space here is to back up and say, okay, well, now approach here. Keep in mind, if the opponent believes, see what this guy here is right here? The opponent believes he has to come here to hit you, right? So if he were to walk right on that space right there and do an attack, right? I don't necessarily have to do this to beat him out. If I kind of show him that I'm here and then I do this, and he walks into that space and does an attack, he's still going to whiff, right? So I don't necessarily need to kind of beat him out, beat out his moves, so to speak, by sticking something out before he sticks something out. I can surrender my neutral ground, create new neutral ground. He comes in and tries to stick something in the old neutral ground, but new ground has been created. Now he whiffs, and then you get the punish. So again, this is one of the biggest concepts that people tend to, not use, tend to misunderstand, is that you don't necessarily have to defend the ground you're on, obviously, unless you're cornered and then there's not any new neutral ground for you to create. But ideally, you're always looking to create new neutral ground. And this is pretty much or like I said, again, and this is the mind game. Your opponent believes, hey, he's going to create new neutral ground, right? So then the opponent begins to kind of go forward and back away. And then you say, okay, he thinks I'm going to create new neutral ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show him that I'm going to try to create new neutral ground. And then I'm going to come all the way in and attack him, right? So this is kind of the biggest bait. This allows people to this is why when you watch somebody just walk up on somebody else and throw them, how did that happen? Well, it happened because the opponent believes you're going to try to create new neutral ground. So then they begin to surrender. You say, guess what? I'm not creating new neutral ground. I'm coming all the way in. And then they keep thinking, okay, any minute he's going to back away, something's going to whiff. And then you come all the way in, throw him, etc. So there's a lot of layers to this, And again, people oftentimes talk about the jumping in Mortal Kombat 11. And like I said, you may not be a character that has a good anti-air. If you're a character that has a great anti-air, you can kind of make the read, stand your ground, and anti-air attacks. If you're a character that doesn't have a good anti-air, or an anti-air that is a little slower, so it requires a little more space, you're going to have to anti-air from different ranges, either by making the jump in whiff, which is one of the best ways to kind of anti-air in this game, changing your space, making the jump in whiff, right? He's jumping in because he thinks you're going to be here, and now you're here. You've created new neutral ground. And, or maybe like Sub-Zero has his back too. You might want to change the range so that the move can be a little more effective, and then you can get the anti-air. Not everything neutral does not, just because you can't stand here and jab someone out of the air does not mean that you can't anti-air. You just have to do it in different ways by changing your space, positioning. Even uppercuts are really good by changing your position, right? By changing your upper body, right, to down here. Now he has to go further to be able to hit you. You've changed your collision, so to speak. You've changed the space in which your body is occupying to a certain extent, and now you can kind of get an uppercut there, punish, whereas otherwise you couldn't really get an anti-air from this position. So I'm really trying to incorporate all kind of like facets here. I didn't want to get too in-depth, but I wanted to be in-depth enough to get people to get the basic concepts. Like obviously I could literally go matchup by matchup and kind of break things down, but that would take way too long. So I hope this video helps. I think I'm pretty happy to where this video is, to where I won't be removing it and trying to re-upload a better version of it. So at least until the next NRS game, where I might have to incorporate new things to the game, new parts of neutral into it, this is pretty much going to stay here where it is. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will check you next time.